everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of season 2 of Huell's Gold.
We're analyzing episode 302 of California's Gold.
And do you know what we love doing? Taking a closer look at Huell Hauser.
That's right. Good little segue into the title of this episode, A Closer Look. And I gotta say, he's taking a closer look at things that I honestly would never have taken a closer look at.
And would you ever take a closer look at them again?
I don't know. This was one of those episodes where we were kind of wondering, how's this going to go?
You know, this is one of the experiments, though, that was happening on this show. You just go and see what it's like. And whatever it may be, he did his best to make it interesting.
Yeah.
I can say that. But this is taking California Gold. I said California Gold, like an old person. California's Gold philosophy to its extreme.
Yeah.
Which is, if you approach it in that context, then okay.
It's, this is only season 2 of his show, so he's probably wondering, like, how far can I take this?
Yeah.
Because just the intro theme song this week was just a cello, just simply a cello. And you'll see on our Instagram screenshots that it's Carolyn Seacrest.
Ryan Seacrest's mom.
Yeah. No. From El Centro is just sitting in the sand dunes alone for a second anyway.
With the wind a-flowing.
Yeah. It's reminiscent of the saxophone player on the Central Coast episode. But then the logo, did you see what happened this week?
Yeah, it was flung out of the exhaust of a quad. Yeah. Or was it a dirt bike?
I couldn't tell. They're small. There's like these little dirt bikes, vehicles of some sort.
Maybe it was the three-wheelers, the things we see at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that.
And it just blows out of that thing and then sucks back into it.
Oh, see, we were talking about this. I hope that she hit just a hard note and it just sprang California's Gold into existence. But it didn't. Maybe next time.
But let's slam on into this one. Huell, tell us why we're in the sand dunes.
Now, if there ever was a time I would have driven right past something significant without even knowing it was there, this would have been it. Because when you're driving east on Interstate 8 through Imperial County, things are pretty flat and kind of monotonous. Then, about 45 miles east of El Centro, not too far from the Arizona state line, suddenly these beautiful, huge white sand dunes appear. 12 miles wide at their widest point, and over 40 miles long. They definitely dominate the landscape. But the dunes themselves weren't what we were looking for. We were in search of something in the dunes, and we were told it was right off the interstate. In fact, there it is, a little-known bit of California history that's hard to find, hard to see, even if you're looking for it. Now, to get to this place, we had to get off the interstate onto a little 2-lane road that took us even closer to the dunes. In fact, there was a strong wind blowing that day, and the sand from the dunes was beginning to cover the road. But undaunted, we pressed on and finally reached our destination. And in case you're wondering just what this is, well, it's what's left of the Plank Road. They started building the Plank Road from scratch back in 1914, right through the dunes. And when it opened for traffic in 1915, it was something to see. In fact, looking at these old pictures, it's an amazing sight. A single-lane road, 6 miles long, made entirely out of planks. You see, before the Plank Road, it was impossible to cross the dunes by car. You either had to go south down into Mexico or go way up around the north end and then back down. Well, the San Diego City Fathers wanted motorists to have a direct route to their city from the east, and the only way to do that was to build a road through, well, actually over the dunes. So that's exactly what they did.
All right, so that is a primitive road.
Yeah.
He's talking about.
This is, again, one of those things that seemed like a good thing in theory to go check out. A plank road. A wooden road.
Yeah.
A road that was only used for 11 years. 1915 and 1926. Then they got around to paving a road. Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thunk it, yeah.
But
we do get to see this, well, Huell is rolling up in as royalty.
Yeah.
In his classic car.
When he rolls up to the plank road, he shows up in what he calls a vintage touring car.
Which is owned by Richard Alford. And we learned that in the credits.
Yeah.
So
it's a Franklin, whatever brand that was back then. It was, according to the license plate, it was 1930.
Oh, it's a Frankie, yeah.
Yeah, Frankie 30s. Whatever. But it looks cool. It kind of looks like a Munsters car, but blue. Something like that.
That's a good description.
But then Huell, he's taken this group of people that he came with in the touring car up to the last remnants of the plank road.
Which I love that Huell takes the same... So the distance between his steps is about the same as Ida here.
What's that, like 6 inches?
Yeah, he's kind of just walking on his heels.
Very slowly.
Keeping pace with her.
He's kind of helping her out to this road because, you walk on they're in the sand dunes out here. So, when you walk on the sand at the beach, it's
sketchy.
Yeah, even for us top-notch walkers.
Whew. You ever tried to run in the sand?
Yeah. I don't see how those
happening.
Those volleyball players smashing around on there.
Mm-hmm.
Now there were some athletes, so who
well, speak for yourself.
Come on. All right. But who we starting off with here?
Big Bad Ida.
Big Bad Ida Little. And she's got such a name. Like, this is a name that does not exist anymore. People don't name their kids Ida.
No.
They should. Is that short for something?
Not that I know. I'm trying to think.
Go look it up. Yeah.
This is amazing.
All right, we're back.
Yeah.
No, Ida is the name.
IDA.
It has a German origin, and it comes from the German word, was it Eid?
Yeah.
Meaning basically to be a laborer.
So she's working. She's working it.
She got the strong back.
Yeah. Is also the name of... It's funny because this is deep. This is super deep stuff. Ida was the name of the band that Dan Littleton from The Hated started after The Hated broke up. Ida Little, Dan Littleton of Ida. Look those bands up.
Well, she doesn't seem very tall. I thought this was a different way to say, I'm a little.
Ida Little lady. All right, let's not make fun of this poor lady.
This is Ida.
Because she's looking snazzy. She's got this like curly Q pattern on her lapels that totally clashes with her Imperial Valley Pioneers trucker hat.
Just totally flat bill, too.
As if she's a 2006 patron of...
Zingo's Cafe?
There you go. But her description of the road, she keeps it real because she said it was really bumpy and it felt like getting a chiropractic adjustment.
It was a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Which that sounds more fun. I think the chiropractic adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can kind of equate this to is I remember going on a ferry as a kid, and we had to drive on a pier-type plank section to get to this ferry, and it was just this bumpy, super bumpy road. So I'm sure it was 6 miles of this plank road drive. So 6 miles of roller coastering does not...
You may be able to get the same feel.
Yeah.
Remember the Giant Dipper in Santa Cruz?
Yeah, where Huell was screaming for Louis.
And I refer to that as an instant headache.
Yeah.
There you go. Maybe that's close. It's fun, but a headache.
After Ida, we meet
don't
up.
forget her story.
What's the story?
So she talks about the turnouts.
Oh, this was her. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're talking about the turnouts and the etiquette or the norms where if you watch the show, there's little bits. Mm-hmm. How would you describe this? There's a little bit that's a turnout, and whoever's closest to it
turns out,
and the person passes them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Ida tells a story about a guy who refused to turn out. And so the bros got out of the car, picked up the other car, put it on the side of the road.
Took off?
Well, they helped him put it back, right?
That's the impression she gave, but, if you got a crew of bros ready to pick up a car, they're probably not doing it because they're really happy about it. I can't imagine them like, oh, okay, sir, we'll get you back on the road now.
See, how do you fumble through the dunes carrying a car? Not even fumble. I mean, they're not going very far in the dunes or anything, but...
How much were these, Model T cars weighing?
Well, you were just on a podcast, right?
Yeah, I was.
You're on Diarrhea Diaries.
I was. Our friend Chaz.
Our friend Chaz.
Uh-huh.
Well, Chaz used to own, at least the stories he's told me.
I never saw this in real life either, so he could be making this up.
It's true. He owned one of those old right-hand drive Minis.
Oh,
like the Austin Minis.
From the UK.
Yeah, the 60s version.
Okay.
And he was playing basketball one night, and I'm just going to refer to them as 4 shredded dudes in tanks looked at the car and said, "Whoa, the thing's like super small." And one person slapped the other guy on the chest and said, "I bet you can't pick it up." And he did. He picked up the back of the car. Then all 4 of them picked it up.
Like up off the ground?
Yeah, just a little bit. Which I think the car weighed 1,200 pounds. That doesn't seem right, huh?
No.
Maybe it's just the back of the car. Because that's a lot for even 4 guys. Even beefy guys.
It's only 300 pounds each. I
guess
bet they
that's not
could
too
deadlift
much.
a lot more. Yeah.
Well, I can't bench press the bar. So this is...
Bench press is different, dude. You got the deadlift. That's a lot more.
Well, no,
weight
when I
you can lift
deadlift,
up.
what I do is I just snap my back. You got to overcome momentum, right? So you snap with your back and lift.
Your back's gonna snap if you do it that way.
Well, I can't lift anything anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, anyways, so that's another story.
Well, but you mentioned being on that show. Yes, I was a guest on Diarrhea Diaries. It's quite a different show than ours here, but
Which just be conscious because we refer to as Double D.
yeah,
But know your audience.
exactly. But it's a fun show. It's not nearly as gross as the title sounds. It's just, embarrassing stories when we were younger and had some accidents. Because we've all had those kind of accidents. And
I never have.
okay,
We
If
don't
you
need to
say
talk
so.
about this. But
all right.
if they want to hear your story, they can cruise right on over.
Yeah.
Diarrhea
Search
Diaries.
wherever you're finding our show, you can find his show, and you can hear my funny story.
Dude, there are some wild stories too.
Yeah, it's an entertaining podcast for sure. So if you go over there, tell them we sent you. Huell's Gold sent you.
But don't trust them.
No. But now we can get on to Betty and Hazel,
Oh.
and these are.
We don't hear much from Betty.
I don't think we hear anything from Betty.
Yeah, well, we hear a laugh.
Yeah, she's like the Ed McMahon to Hazel's Johnny Carson.
That's good.
Or I guess I could keep it in the current century. The Andy Richter to her Conan O'Brien.
Okay,
There you
that's
go.
even better.
But Hazel Veliket tells another story about like the turnouts. That seems to be the big selling point of this road is these turnouts and the different things that happen. But did you notice her glasses?
Yeah, I was wondering if she could see anything back then because these.
Those are limousine tints. They also look like You know when you go to the eye doctor and you get your pupils dilated and they give you those like weird wraparound, just like it's just a film of...
Yeah.
They look like those, and it's like she went there and she's like, oh, free sunglasses. Which, why not use those more?
So when you go to the dentist, you get free toothpaste.
Yeah.
And toothbrush.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, she tells another interesting story about the turnout. I guess the turnouts, there isn't much going on.
No, it's
on
a
the
road.
road.
It's a single lane road.
It's a bumpy road.
Yeah.
Single lane. And she tells a story about how a car had to back up on because the road's fairly skinny. At least the first iteration of the road was really, how would you say, maybe 5 or 6 times the width of the tires. So you had a small margin of
there
error.
were those little skinny Model T, Model A tires too. So.
Yeah, so I guess people had to back up, and I already have a hard time backing up anyway. Mm-hmm. So I could imagine doing it on that. And Huell, what does Huell say? He says something about, why didn't you get them to turn off the road?
Oh yeah, what was it?
And she mentions that, they must have been Texans.
Yeah, what was that? I don't understand. Like, I get this is California's gold and you got your California pride, but...
Well, I wonder if they're maybe Texans settled into the eastern part and maybe they weren't.
In Arizona, though? Like,
oh, true, Arizona, that's right. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
Hazel, you stumped us. What are you talking about?
Call in. Let us know what's going on.
You or Betty. Betty seemed to know this story, too. But that's the end of the... That's the end of the interviews with Betty and Hazel, and we're moving on to Greg Hill, and he seems to be in charge. He's the man in charge here. Because he's with the Bureau of Land Management, who now owns and operates the kind of like museum-esque portion of this plank road. I don't even know what to...
That looks like just a sliver.
The sliver, yeah. Because he tells the story about how the guys and gals, I suspect, after the road, they got the paved road, people were pulling off pieces as souvenirs, and then eventually it just became...
Firewood.
Oh, we're camping. Let's use some firewood. Which is not very historically minded of them.
No. I mean, I'm sure that's what is kind of interesting. How do you reconcile, people really like the road when I guess we'll get to that when they build the asphalt road, which apparently they just call the roads by what they're made of.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. I guess we do that too, call them dirt roads.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently people liked just looking at the road, but then started burning it.
Yeah. Well, when you're camping and it's cold, you need to fire.
Well, my favorite part, I hate having to pick favorite parts. A part that I like in this interview is Huell gives this plank road, the little sliver, a stress test.
Yeah.
By just stomping on it.
Like his 250-pound stomps come anywhere near to the, we're assuming, 1,200-pound Model T cars that we're driving on it. Like, sturdy. Yeah, this is good. It's also, this isn't even a piece of the original road that he's stomping on. Mm-hmm. This is just a recreation they built next to the completely demolished original road. But my favorite, or one of my favorite parts of this little segment, is when they go in, Greg and Huell kneel down and they're talking about how the sand would blow over the road and they'd have to scrape it and all this stuff. Huell's just like playing in the sand and he looks like a kid in a sandbox. He's just reverting so hard to the real reason he wanted to go to the Sand Dudes.
Just play in the sand?
Just a little play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because he does it that he holds sand in his hand and he kind of does the palm tap.
Yeah.
And let the sand blow in the wind.
Well, Huell really kind of, he's got a knack for summing things up. So towards the end of Greg's little story time, Huell has the quote of the segment, which really...
You and I were talking, right? This is something... This segment could have been... let's be generous. It could have been 6 seconds long.
Mm-hmm. He could have showed up to the plank road. This is mean. But really, like, this is the least exciting thing that we've seen so far, which is saying a lot because most things are very exciting on this show to us.
Right, yeah.
But he shows up to the plank road and he could have just said, well, it was built. Because that's what he says to end the segment. Well, it was built.
That's a perfect. Sums it up.
Yeah.
True.
But that wraps up this segment in El Centro. Huell, we're staying in Southern California. Where are we going now?
Continuing our Southern California adventure, from the Plank Road in Imperial County, we headed west on Highway 94 to San Diego County. Now, Highway 94 is a windy road that goes through some beautiful country. We were heading for the little community of Campo, which is located about 60 miles east of San Diego. And right before we got to Campo, right there on the side of Highway 94, we passed by this field. Now, if you didn't know better, you'd think it was just another plain old field. But this field is one of the most historic in our entire state. Let's go back in time, about half a century, to World War II days, when this very field was used as a drill field, as a parade field for whole regiments of Army Horse Cavalry, specifically members of the 10th, 11th, and 28th Cavalry Regiments. Now, this whole area around Campo was part of Camp Lockett, and it was here that thousands of men and thousands of horses went through their training. In 1941 and 1942, the 11th Cavalry Regiment was stationed here. And after they left, from 1942 to 1944, the 10th and 28th Cavalry Regiments were here. Now, these were all black regiments, carrying on the proud tradition of the Buffalo Soldiers. And as it turned out, these were also the very last units of the Horse Cavalry in the U.S. Army. Now, back during the war, Camp Lockett was a bustling, busy place. These days, things are kind of quiet. Some of the old buildings and barracks have been converted for commercial use, but many of them stand empty and deserted, filled with nothing but memories. But memories were exactly what was on everybody's mind as the soldiers who went through training here gathered for their 50-year reunion. 3 days filled with seeing old friends, sharing old stories, and remembering what it was like to be in the Horse Cavalry.
There you have it. We're going to Campo.
Yep, to Camp Lockett, specifically.
Which this is a bit west of where we were in San Diego County. I guess it has to be in San Diego County. But it's deep in the streets, too.
That's like right at the Mexican border. We're down there.
Right by your favorite city, Tecate.
Named after my 16th favorite beer.
Oh, man.
So, as you heard in the clip, it was a long clip. There's a lot of information. Huell is visiting the location of the last mounted cavalry of the United States. It was the last time that horses were still a part of the armed forces, I guess. And he gets to visit a number of guys who were involved in that in the 1940s. Is like early 40s was when they were out there training and hanging out and stuff. And there are some definite characters in this group of guys because, you know, these are all ex-military guys, and it seems like they must have drafted a lot of Texans to come to this cavalry camp out here.
Yeah. Well, the first guy, he mentions he's from Dar, which is Missouri.
He sounds to me like Boomhauer from King of the Hill. You can, if you remember on the spring break episode, I did the little montage of clips. He's the one who I put it in there because it was too funny, because you can barely tell what he's saying. But he tells lots of stories about how these cowboys, or they weren't cowboys. He's wearing a cowboy hat. It throws me off. These mounted soldiers couldn't figure out how the horse works. It was like a circus out there. But he's really just the tip of the iceberg on these guys don't know how to write a horse stories.
You know, and we kind of get a feel, though, of how these guys couldn't write it. Because the first the first bit, when they're showing the hall where everyone's commingling, just having a conversation, there's a shot of a guy with a little golf hat on, and he's using the camera.
It's like an old like an 80s point and shoot kind of Kodak camera.
He's using it like it's like they're binoculars.
He's got the viewfinder in between his two eyes.
And then
he
looks at the camera
like he got caught.
Like he got caught, yeah. Like he doesn't know how to use it. So I imagine that this is maybe the equivalent. The technological equivalent, or like...
Yeah. Like this is... As good as he is at the camera, they were as good at riding horses.
He refers to these people as selectives.
Yeah, I didn't get what that was supposed to mean.
Maybe just... I don't know.
Select, like draftees?
Yeah, I guess
That's
so.
how I thought of it. Like they didn't volunteer for this. They were just thrown into it. Because this guy, the guy in the cowboy hat who's Boomhauer,
we never hear his name, so we can go with that.
He's wearing a name tag, but because of there's like a glare on the camera lens that makes it really hard to see what his name is. But he seems like he's rode horses prior to this cavalry that he was in. But then all these guys from Chicago, because there's a number of guys who tell stories about these guys from Chicago who got on the horse backwards and, oh man, he fell off the butt of it, and just all these...
They called them City Slickers.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of City Slickers.
Yeah.
The movie. Do you remember the part when Curly... He's like, oh, look at Curly being a true cowboy, sleeping with his eyes open. Spoiler, Curly dies.
Yeah, whoops.
So, that's what it reminded me of.
His twin brother shows up, though. More spoilers. But all these guys, it's funny because these guys... Hit play.
No.
These guys seem like the type who would be, wearing the California's Gold older male uniform, which is the short sleeve shirt tucked in with a glasses case. But I mean, they're like halfway there. They got that same look with the short sleeve button up shirt, but none of them have their sunglasses with them. Because we would know because they would have that glasses case right there in the breast pocket.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on. They got stuff in their pockets. Like, we're talking to some guys who are talking about their horses. One guy's got a little notepad. Another guy looks like he's got like a pocket protector. But they're talking about their horses, and
this guy doesn't even have his name tag. He just has
the clear plastic holder. But did you catch the guy from before? They were talking about their horses, and Huell's trying to get them to be reminiscent of it, and they're like, oh yeah, whatever. And Huell's like, oh, come on, guys, I'm trying to get some touching horse stories. And the one guy says, oh, mine's name was Tarzan. He was real frisky. What? But yeah, then on to the guy who's got no name tag in his name tag holder. He's only talking there for a second, and then we go on to another guy who actually shows us how they rode horses, which he goes on. He like spouts off all this army jargon about how you sit and how your feet go.
Military bearing,
yeah,
I think is the term that he used.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't get, but that's why these guys are around, to tell us this stuff and learn us the history.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you were mentioning the name of the horses.
Yeah,
because I think you can tell. I get the feeling that either they like the horse or they didn't like the horse, but how they referred to it. One guy referred to the horse as, what was it, W207?
No name.
And the other one said Venus, which I thought he said Wheatus. And so
The teenage dirtbag, the teenage dirtbag horse. No.
Oh, so
But then Frisky Tarzan, like he could tell he liked that horse, but
true. And then Boomhauer comes rocking back into the screen. He says, "Oh, loved them boogers." So
after it's funny that this is a whole story about mounted people, like mounted servicemen, I guess is a way to put it. Mounted people sounds like they were trophies that we hunted,
just like frozen. Yeah.
But then we get on a train. It's funny that they go on a train now. Like this is all about horses, but then now we're going on a train ride put on by the San Diego Railroad Museum, so that these guys can see the countryside that they were riding around in. Which, this is some rugged stuff. Like, it doesn't seem like a horse would want to be riding through here, right?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, you and I were talking about this. These people have to be totally divorced from their communities.
Yeah.
Like in terms of their life experiences. Because they're not even, well, I can't say this. I'm not a cowboy, so I don't know. They're not quite cowboys.
No.
But they're also not, they haven't assimilated into...
Well, it's like they're not quite cowboys, and they're not quite soldiers either.
And they're not quite civilians.
No, they're just mounted soldiers. It's a very weird, specific grouping. But the landscape that they were in, there's lots of old footage that they show in the episode of them, like, pushing these horses down these dirt cliffs and stuff. Not pushing them, but, like, having them run down these cliffs. And the horses seem to be having fun, but... This one guy on the train with his... Oh, wait. Okay, pause it for a second. We already went through this, but I just noticed how this guy is really dressed. So, okay. He looks like he could be in The Sopranos, first off.
Oh, yeah.
He just looks like an Italian guy because he's got like a white polo shirt, unbuttoned down to the bottom button possible, and a gold necklace. But, wait, go back. Do you see what's tucked in his shirt? Like in the buttons of his shirt? He's got his glasses case.
Oh, he does have it.
Tucked in the deepest recesses. It's like touching his belly button almost. It's so deep. And he's got permatins on.
Oh, that's awesome. See,
this guy.
The smile that the other guy has, dude, it takes me back. Just track with me here.
Okay.
What do you think? So this is the guy when he was 20, mentioning the story when he was 23, riding the horses. Danny Glover.
Oh, yeah. Like Danny Glover now.
Danny Glover now, yeah,
totally.
for sure. And all I think of is Danny Glover. Well, Angels in the Outfield. I don't know why, but I
think that's probably where we first saw him.
Yeah.
Like we didn't see. What was he in?
Was he in Lethal Weapon?
Yeah. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
I didn't see that until I was older.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't allowed to see those.
We just
like
continually watched Lethal Weapon 2, so I had no idea.
You didn't know the context of 1 and 3?
My dad would just watch it. Yeah, it's on TNT.
Oh, so you got the edited version.
Yeah.
Where they say frick.
I'm too old for this mess.
Yeah. But this is a great crew. And there's one guy that we haven't mentioned yet, which is funny because he's in like every other shot. He's just this old guy. They never talk to him. But he's got this big red hat that just has huge white letters that just say VIP on it. And he's everywhere. He's always around.
He's just always smiling, too. Just a happy guy. And then old No Name Tag actually has his name tag in towards the end here. And he says something that I don't think I've ever heard anyone say.
I have it written down right here, too.
I'm thankful that I was drafted.
Yeah. I've never heard anyone say that.
But then I think he gives a little bit more. And then he adds, into the Cavalry of this unit. So, okay. A little different, yeah.
I don't think anyone was glad they were drafted into World War II. Like, maybe there were these, like, super anti-Nazi types who were, like, ready to go fight the good fight. But, like, usually those were volunteers, not draftees.
Right. It's just not something you hear.
Yeah. So Huell kind of wraps it up with the cavalry, and we got some more old footage. And then it's funny because he does the outro, and the intro he did in the beginning of this episode, it's much like last week when he forgot to do it and he was just in the car. But this seems planned.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's obvious that this happened 2 minutes after the intro. But he's talking about the show as if it's already happened. So I'm thinking they did the intro and outro at the same time at the end. So he already knew what had happened.
Mm-hmm. But did you also notice that this episode's a few minutes shorter than the other ones?
I mean, I'm looking at where we are, and we're running short just because this is it's pretty succinct stuff.
Yeah. True. So,
but as far as his outro, he starts it at the 23-minute mark when usually it's at the 27-minute mark. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking how are they going to fill this time? And then the answer is given. A very long, slow-mo dune montage with some ambient music over top. And I said, "Oh man, this looks like a Brian Eno music video." And you said, "Who's Brian Eno?" Which I should have just quit the podcast right then. But this isn't a music podcast, so whatever. Guess what we're listening to in the car later? No, but yeah, anyone who knows about Brian Eno's kind of ambient series, it sounds a lot like that. And I actually Shazammed it. It's called "Out of Darkness" by Curtis Schwartz, who's also kind of like an ambient musician. I don't know much about him, but yeah, this is kind of like this is more kind of like the artsy stuff that Luis Fuerte talks about in his book that he was very proud of as far as KCET doing experimental television, which how experimental is some all-terrain cycles on the dunes with some ambient music.
Well, I know that you saw the same thing I did. As the three-wheeler goes over the dunes and disappears into sight, the show ends.
Yeah.
So that's about...
These old three-wheelers you were telling me about, I remember riding these as a kid once, and they're super dangerous.
Yeah, my cousin used to race them in Ventura in the early 90s. I feel like
he survived though, right?
Yeah, it was late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. Which they were still legal because...
Yeah.
I don't think you can... Well, they're not made anymore. I don't think they're illegal, but...
I think I rode some of my uncles in 2001. And even then, people were asking him "Oh man, you still got those?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, they haven't stopped me yet."
Oh, okay. So they are.
So it was soon after this, but...
Well, we sort of have to pack up pretty quick here, right?
Yeah, we got somewhere to go. You're going to be hearing this hopefully Sunday, but we're recording this Saturday morning, and we're heading to Valencia.
We get some pizza there?
Well, maybe. I heard it's pretty bad out there. No. No, we're heading to the library. We got to go meet Louie.
Let's go see what he's up to.
All right. Yeah, if you're hearing this now, the event's already over, but you've been hearing us talk about it. Luis Fuerte, cameraman of California's Gold at the Valencia Public Library. We're going to post about it right now. Meet you there.
Or not.
Darn well better. But next week we'll tell you all about it, and we'll give a whole report of how it is. And I know he does these from time to time. There's another one in August that will be plugging a lot when it comes
Maybe
time.
we can bring him out to the Kern County Museum here.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I think so. We'll talk to him.
Yeah, let's figure it out.
All right, so we're going to go hang out with Louie. This was a good episode. It ended up better than I thought. I was skeptical,
yeah.
but
once you get going,
Huell never really has let me down yet. So here's hoping that they all stay prime time 24 karat California's Gold.
Mm-hmm. I like that. All right.
But we're wrapping it up, and we hope that you come along with us next time as we continue our search for Huell's Gold.
Now, we were going to save the details of Louis' talk for next week.
Yes, but we're back.
But we're back.
It's hours later.
he's said something relevant to this episode specifically.
We didn't even ask the question. It
Right.
was just part of what he was talking about. So he had to come back, throw this on.
Let's hear it.
So we all saw, well, I guess we saw, you should see the video of Huell with the mounted soldiers, which we didn't mention, but you heard in the clip. Part of that regiment was the famed Buffalo Soldiers. And that was what Louis was talking about with his Buffalo Soldiers episode, which is this one. And he said that his shot that he had all set up to be the outro was a Western-style riding off into the sunset.
So, no three-wheelers.
No, none of that, which makes sense as to why it's like 3 minutes short.
Yeah.
Because that's what they attempted to do, was this riding off into the sunset shot that Louis had concocted. But
things didn't go to plan.
no.
Huell, he fell off the horse.
He fell off the dang horse. So Louis says that they did take one, and they ride off. Boom, boom, bam! Huell falls off the horse. Ah, man. Oh, my leg hurts. Okay, well, let's try take two. I don't know if I can do take two. He's like, what? Huell, I thought you were Mr. Marine Corps. Were you not tough enough? And he's like, I don't think so. And they just cut it. Like, they didn't do it.
That's so funny. But Chapman has to have this footage, right? If it still exists, it wasn't recorded over. This would be a great blooper.
That's the discussion that we were having afterwards out front with some fellow Huell heads. Is where does Chapman have this cutting room floor footage? Because they have the big vault. If you've ever been to the exhibit there, they have this temperature controlled. It's not a vault; it's just a room, but I like calling it the vault of all of the original tapes. And I gotta think, like, they gotta have that, right?
I would think so. Yeah.
Because you even said, like, you whispered to me while the talk was going, "Hey, you think they'll ever make a blooper reel?" And it would be so good if they did. But I guess that's up to Chapman whether they have that or not.
And just assuming that they kept this footage. Because you never know in the old days. I remember when I would make skate videos, I would just record over the stuff.
Yeah. You're
So-
not thinking this is going to be valuable stuff later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we just had to pop in and tell you that juicy little tidbit. The whole talk was full of them. Great stories. Some of them from the book. Some new ones based on questions.
And the turnout was great.
So good. Oh, man.
Standing room only.
Literally, we did not sit a single second.
There were a few people that were, man, I hope they don't call the fire marshal.
So it was a good event. We'll do a whole breakdown next week. And yeah, again, we hope you come along with us next time as we continue again our search.
Continuing our search.
There you go. For Huell's Gold.